This meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors is now called to order at 4:33 p.m. Okay, we are going to start with the roll call. And we are expecting Director Block. It's been delayed by a few minutes. So I am Carolyn Watson.
Cindy Rogan. Monica Webster.
Jane R.S.
Kelly R.
This is Phil Block. I'm online.
Oh, hi. Okay. Director Block is online, so we're all here. Great. All right. So now we're going to have the introduction of the student, and I'll look to Mr. Harrison for that. Oh, I guess I'll look to Mr. White for that.
Mr. White,
Yeah.
you have the honor. Dizzy, do you want to join Mr. White up there? Thank you.
Oh, your microphone.
I like the green light. So good afternoon. My name is Russ White, principal of International School, and it's my pleasure to introduce one of our seniors, Dizzy Wilson. Dizzy, if you joined us for the performance of Les Mis, Dizzy was the brainchild behind the set design for our performance.
Hello. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you could lead us in that.
Great.
And we have a flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, super. And then next we have the land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish peoples, who include the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived to continue and live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We're committed to our ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance.
Okay, great. And so now we're happy to hear whatever it is you'd like to tell us.
Yeah. Good afternoon, members of the board. Thank you for having me today. As they've already introduced, my name is Dizzy Wilson, and I'm a current senior at International, and you may recognize me as the set designer from the Titan Players performance of Les Mis, which you all came to see a few weeks ago, which is what I want to talk about. I joined the theater program at IS about a year and a half ago, looking to explore creative career paths because my dream is to become an artist. And what I've appreciated the most about the program is the opportunities it gives our students to learn and try new things. International doesn't have shop classes or theater classes or any of the options that many of our other high schools have, but our theater program makes up for a lot of it. Coming into theater, I had zero experience, but the program provided me with the opportunities to learn and apply myself. Phil, I don't know if you remember, but you showed me how to use a drill just over a year ago in Cyrano. It seems small, but to me that was important. And it's not just to me, but all the kids in the program. You all saw what we were able to accomplish in Les Mis and what the kids were able to accomplish. Ellie, a seventh grader, ran all the music and sound from the booth. Nina, a sophomore, did all of our props. And Zoe, also a sophomore, did the costumes. And Lane, a junior, did the lighting. 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, Faith, Sandra, Shruti, Anavia, Alex, Donovan, Coda, Francesca, and Jade all helped me with building the set. Linda, an 8th grader, ran all the mics and designed the poster for the show. That was her first time doing both of those things, which she learned during that show. Karis, an 8th grader, is our future stage manager, and they're taking responsibility for the sets next year. And it's not just the kids working on the production, but the kids in the show itself. Taylor, Ashley, Jay, Dia, Aria, Armand, Charlie, Gabriella, I could keep going. This program has brought together the hardest working, sweetest kids and given them the opportunities to really do something special. I don't know how many of these kids you members of the boards recognize, and I don't know if you'll ever formally meet all of them, but I wanted to spend this short time to appreciate them and the community of International's drama program. I know for me, it'll be hard graduating from International and saying bye to all the friends I've made, but I'm truly, truly proud of every one of them. With that, I'd like to thank you all for coming to see our accomplishments in Les Mis and supporting us all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And I particularly like the way you credited so many of your teammates or theater mates. Okay, now we are on to the acknowledgements. Okay, so here we go. This is Arab American Heritage Month, Autism Acceptance Month, National Occupational Therapy Month, National School Library Month, Poetry Month. The second was Paraprofessional Appreciation Day. The second was also World Autism Day. That was yesterday. Tomorrow is National School Librarian Day. Then on the 6th, we have Ram Navami. Then from the 7th to 11th, we have Assistant Principal Appreciation Week. From the 7th to the 11th, we also have National Library Week. And from the 7th to the 11th, we have National Robotics Week. On the 12th, we have Passover. On the 13th, we have Palm Sunday. And on the 14th, we have Vaisakhi. Okay. And so we do about half a month. In the next meeting, we'll have more. Okay, so next we have the approval of the agenda. And so I would like to see if we can have a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
Okay, and so would anybody like to discuss that? Okay, I don't see our online people, but okay, good. So generally we don't have a lot of discussion on that. So let's see, all those in favor of approving the agenda for tonight, please say aye.
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 And then, is anybody opposed? No? Okay, so that motion carries. All right, so now we're going to talk about getting a motion for the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Okay, would anybody, is there any discussion for the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing no discussion for the consent agenda, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So the consent agenda is now approved. So we're moving into superintendent updates.
I just have a few updates today. Let me see here. The first one, just to start with, last night, I was here in this room with a number of parents, staff members, community members for kind of the second part, board directors, thank you, yes, for the second part of our book study on the anxious generation. And yesterday, the focus was on how do parents and teachers support, welcome, Director Block.
Yeah, don't
Just kidding. That was a joke, but seriously, welcome. So it was a really great night. This room was packed, and we got to talk about the very challenging issues of anxiety, depression that is facing our children, increasingly so. And we had a couple of our MHAT counselors who were able to present on the ways that families can support their kids with anxiety. So a really powerful time together. I'm hoping that we can expand that training and work to more staff, more families, PTSAs, because this is something that we're all struggling with. I mean, and increasingly so with our kids. There's a lot of parents who talked about district policy and procedures that impact like devices, iPads, computers, laptops, how much technology our kids are on. People wanted to know about, our cell phone policy and what was working and not working at our high schools, and whether we would consider full bans and things like that. And so it's clearly a conversation people want to have, and I just appreciated everybody's input and personal stories about the impact of cell phones and social media on their children. Let's see here. I wanted to just share, there's so many things happening with our budget cuts and things like that. And so I just wanted to kind of share a quick update on the next year's organization of the superintendent cabinet. Over the next 3-4 weeks, I'll be sharing more of kind of how central office is going to be structured. But I want people to see sort of what the cabinet's going to look like, because this is kind of, I needed to get this situated so that we can kind of figure out how everything else is going to work. And what I'll say is, before I kind of go through some of the specifics about this, I would just want to say that the goal is to support our schools. Like the central office, we have amazing people that work in the central office, and we do all of our work in support of children. And so that was kind of the mindset that I had in thinking about how I wanted to structure the cabinet, because I wanted it to be a superintendent cabinet that was here in support of our buildings. And so with that, on the green side is operations, on the right side is instruction. Probably the biggest change is that I'm shifting Dr. Heather Sanchez, who's been a school chief of schools over elementary for the past 5 or 6 years. And I'm going to move her over to be the chief operating officer. So she's going to oversee operations in the district. And so transportation and safety and security, facilities and all of that. And so she'll be amazing in that leadership role, supporting all of our operational departments. And I think she'll be bringing her expertise around schools and school needs. And so Heather will be kind of the overseeing all of operations. John Harrison will remain in his role as chief of staff and government relations. And we are really going to lean in on building deeper relationships with the Chamber of Commerce, with the city of Bellevue, with the Downtown Association. We need those relationships to be very strong in order to support our school and our school system. Janine Thorne will remain as chief communications officer. Jeff Thomas has been our assistant superintendent of human resources, and he, in supporting our budget issues, but also kind of the flattening of the leadership structure, is going to be moving into an executive director role. So that the executive director chief role is going to be kind of the highest role on the cabinet. Jason Golick will remain as our executive director over business services, and Shannon McMenemy will be our legal counsel. On the instructional side, then, with Heather moving over to operations, Aaron Miller will be the P through 12 chief of schools. So he will be over all of our schools, but we are going to have Kelly Taylor, who has been serving in the director of early learning, will be supporting him. And she has previously served in a director of schools role. So between Aaron and Kelly, they will support our schools together. And I feel really confident about that. Dr. Melissa Macias, Dr. William Jackson, and Scott Powers are basically going to be our 3 executive directors over teaching and learning. And if you look at Scott Powers, it says executive director of inclusion and accessibility. One of the big areas that he's going to oversee is special education, but his job title signifies the importance of inclusion and accessibility in our district. And so his leadership role is going to help kind of teaching and learning to make sure that we're pushing towards inclusive practices, and that we're supporting our system and our teachers in doing that, because we know that it's to be successful with those things, we have to have a system that supports the teachers in doing that. So, and then the last, Melanie McGee will be our director of strategic initiatives. And she's going to be helping kind of project manage all of the big work that we're doing, making sure that things are manageable at our buildings and with our teachers and principals, and making sure that we're kind of heading towards our goals of our strategic plan. So that is kind of the overview of the superintendent cabinet for next year. I'm very excited about it. It's an incredible team of leaders. All of them are very service-minded and will be great in providing service and support to our children, our staff, and our families. Let's see, sorry about that. A quick legislative update. So I think I'm going to need to do these every time we have a board meeting until the end of the legislative session, which is at the end of April. And I just want to take a moment to thank Director Aris, who has been our legislative rep on the board, because some of these bills that are moving forward, she makes personal calls to our legislators to say, like, we need this, or can you advocate for this? And so Director Aris, I know you're online, but I just want to say thank you because a couple of these bills in particular, I think your advocacy has really helped us to move that forward. But these ones, I just want our community to know this is what I'm fighting for every single day. Special Education Senate Bill 5263, in its current state, if we got that bill passed this year, would bring about $5 million every year more to the Bellevue School District to support our students with special needs. Senate Bill 5192, MSOC, the materials, supplies, and operating costs, in its current state, if we got that bill passed, it would bring another $2.5 million. Senate Bill 5412 is about binding conditions. And this is one of them where Director Aras really helped me to get this through. But with this bill, for any district that is in binding conditions, they have a one-time opportunity to sell property and use that to help rebuild the fund balance. It is a huge thing. So I'm just going to say I'm so thankful to our legislators. They're pushing it forward, and it seems to be moving through. House Bill 2049 is a levy LEA bill. It's too complicated to explain right now, but if this bill passes, Bellevue would be able to collect an additional $10 million a year without even having to go back to our voters. And so in total, the kind of the high water mark for these bills is we could see a $12.5 million additional in funding every single year. And next year, it could be $22.5 million if we get the bill around selling property. So because of some property that we've already, the board has already agreed to sell. So I share this with you to say, I'm not sure we're going to get the high water mark, everything that we want, but I do think that our legislators know the value of public education and are fighting very hard for us. So I just want to say, shout out our Bellevue legislators for advocating today is Director Rogan's last day as a board director. And we just want to say thank you to Director Rogan, who is absolutely incredible and has done a really remarkable job serving on the board for this past year. She's provided us incredible stability and leadership and kindness. And it's, people always wonder like kind of what board directors do. And like, I will say that they are so critical in providing vision and energy and guidance to a school system. They can make or break the success of a school district, and Cindy has just been one of the best. And so I just want to say thank you, Director Rogan, for your leadership this past year. We deeply, deeply appreciate you. And it's a perfect handoff between Director Rogan and our incoming director, Marta Trias. Many of you know Marta, who has been our language access coordinator. She's done all this work to help us be a good district in service of our multilingual families. She set up the systems in our district to ensure that families have access to information. She's going to be the first Spanish-speaking Hispanic person to serve on the board. And it is just simply awesome. And so with the vacant board position, she had an interview process this past week with the board, and the board selected her unanimously. And I just want to thank the board for their choosing of Director Trias. And she's already leading. I mean, she's really not missed a beat. Her first meeting is going to be the week after a break. But yesterday, she and I and Dr. Macias, who's the director of the Welcome Center, we went to the Mexican consulate to build friendship and relationship with the Mexican consulate. There's so much division and hatred in this world, and we are all about building relationships. And so we went out there to see what are the ways that we can build relationship between our staff and teachers in Mexico, and how we can bring friendship and relationship between the kids here and the kids there, and how we can support our many Mexican-American Chicano families here in the Bellevue School District. And so that's the general consulate there. He gave us 5 minutes of his time. It was really awesome to meet him. But it was really amazing. And so you can just see our Director Trias was there and was kind of instrumental in helping us kind of create this opportunity to meet them. So thank you for that. And last but not least, today we celebrated the 10th anniversary of Boom. So I'm wearing my Boom shirt today. Breaking out of the margins, supporting students of color here in the Bellevue School District, 10 years, if you can believe that this annual event has been going on. We had Mark Curry as a guest speaker. He's probably too old for a lot of our kids to remember, but they still loved him. They loved him. They got some of his jokes, and but it was awesome, and he inspired them. And the thing that he I think taught them that resonated with them the most was one of the students asked him, like, what have been your biggest challenge, in being successful? And he said the biggest challenge was himself, like his own kind of self-doubt and things like that. It wasn't the haters around him, because we have so many of them all the time. But in the end, your biggest barrier can be yourself if you allow it to be. But if you don't, your opportunities are unlimited. And so I think the kids really got that message. I got that message, and it was super powerful. So congratulations to our school district for 10 years of Boom. Those kids were just beaming. You could really not get them to stop talking. They were having a great time. It's like going to a conference for those kids. And I'm so glad that they have that space to be affirmed and to be inspired. So with that is the superintendent comments.
Okay. So we're going to move into public comment, but I just wanted to recognize Board Director Aris is not with us because she's out mentoring robotics students on the other side of the state right now for us. So that's great. Moving
I'm on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there she is. She's online, that's why. So we're going to move on to public comment guidelines. Right? Yeah. Okay, so here's where I summarize all this small print briefly for you. But you should know that because of the limitations of the length of this meeting, we only have like 20 minutes at most for board comments, and that means 2 minutes for each person who wants to speak. And then the thing we need to know is that we're asking for the same standard of civility that the board imposes on itself. So therefore, no comments that are libelous or slanderous or an unwarranted invasion of privacy, are obscene or indecent, that would violate some school district policy or procedure, no harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination, no inciting unlawful acts on school premises or violating lawful school regulations, and no creating material and substantial disruption of the orderly operation of the board meeting. And I'm pretty sure you're all going to not do those things. So I'm going to now ask Chief of Staff Harrison to organize the comments.
Thank you, President Watson. And we do have a slide, I believe. We have 6 speakers here tonight. All of them are in person. And so the rules of engagement for the speakers are, if you would make your way to the table right here in the middle. And first thing we'd like you to do is state your name for the record. There will be a timer. You can see it in the top corner of the slide, and it counts down the time that you have. Please be judicious with your time, because there's a little dingling bell that goes off right when you get to 0 seconds. So be forewarned. All right, we'll start with Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Giraldo. Good evening, members of the school board and Dr. Aramaki. We are here to share our concerns regarding initial communication about dual language employment decisions and the significant impact it has had on the morale of our dedicated dual language teachers. This morning, after 6 long weeks of waiting, dual language and bilingual educators received a follow-up communication that included an apology and assurances of support moving forward. While it may have been easier not to come before you today, we have chosen to stand here united because the initial unverified employment information has caused significant distress among our highly qualified dual language teachers. Many of us have dedicated a year, 5 years, 10 years, and even more than 20 years to this district and have been left feeling undervalued and unsupported. Our second concern is how the situation was handled and communicated. Initially, there was minimal written communication regarding this employment information until this morning's update. In response, we reached out to our administrators and our union. To our surprise, our administrators and our union were unaware of all the details involved. This lack of clarity in communication only heightened the confusion and distress, forcing dual language educators to navigate conflicting information from OSPI and the district. Additionally, there was concerning incidents involving the handling of personal, confidential information and the treatment toward educators of a protected class. These incidents raise important questions about alignment with our shared values and the commitment to ensuring all educators feel respected and supported. We sincerely appreciate our union and many administrators who have collaborated with us and offered their support throughout this journey. We look forward to continuing what we were called to do, teach and support our dual language students, families, and educators. Thank you.
My name is Juan Carlos. Good evening, esteemed members of the Bellevue School District Board. We stand before you today as a collective group of educators, the dual language teachers who serve our students through the power of bilingual education. Those of us present proudly teach Spanish to a diverse population of students in Bellevue. We speak to you today as passionate BIPOC educators and fierce advocates for equity, who are deeply committed to the success of our students and the vitality of our school district. However, we have continued to face significant challenges stemming from systemic issues regarding our employment information, job security, and workload concerns. Navigating recent events has made us feel marginalized and othered due to the shifting of unclear information that has been communicated to us. The language used towards us has been disheartening and demoralizing. This has not only undermined our professional expertise, but also the years of dedication we have invested in growing Bellevue School District's language programs, specifically within our marginalized communities. We are professionals, dedicated educators, and members of a protected class. We deserve to be treated with respect and dignity we've earned through our hard work and commitment to our students and the district. We would like to be seen and treated as an asset in enriching our community. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Sally Romo. Dual language teachers reflect the communities we serve, sharing their cultures, languages, and life experiences. In addition to our dedication, we continuously rise to the occasion to enrich our schools and students. Dual language teachers are superheroes. Here's a very condensed list of things that we do every single day in our classrooms. Number 1, balancing 2 languages. Our teachers are highly skilled at managing instruction in 2 languages, which requires specialized strategies to ensure both languages are used equitably while maintaining academic rigor in each. Number 2, we differentiate instruction. Our teachers know how to balance varying levels of proficiency in each language and individualize instruction for all students. Number 3, we foster cultural competency and inclusivity. Our teachers value not only teaching language, but also fostering cultural understanding. We are skilled at being aware of students' diverse backgrounds and incorporating relevant materials into the curriculum. Number 4, curriculum and resource limitations. Our teachers lack sufficient and quality resources. We create supplemental materials and manage the increased workloads without additional compensation. Why do we do this? We love serving our students and families, and we believe in the power of dual language education. Thank you for your time.
My name is Monica Rodriguez Wilson. Thank you to our school board, Dr. Amaki, and our community for this time. Equity-driven decision-making in the Bellevue School District is a process and practice rooted in community engagement and communication. Our dual language community is aware of the district's equity-driven decision-making process that is designed to include the voices of marginalized groups. All of these people in front of you are part of that group. The process and questions for equity-driven decision-making serves as a guide for planning and decision-making in all contexts and setting in accordance with Policy 0130. History demonstrates that there are clear academic, emotional, and social inequities experienced by students, families, and staff who have been minoritized. Before making decisions that impact dual language teachers, and frankly, any teacher or educator, as we have recently experienced, we want to be part of the decision-making process. Had the equity-driven decision-making process been followed from the beginning, it may have prevented much of the distress educators were feeling by engaging with the most affected stakeholders and recognizing the impacts on our employment. This builds trust and fosters positive relationships in our collaboration. Following this process with fidelity and intent is essential in advancing justice and cultivating a sense of belonging for dual language teachers. As we move forward, we ask that the equity-driven decision-making process is followed to meaningfully involve us in decisions that affect our work, students, and families. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Good afternoon, directors. Thank you for this time to speak. My name is Nancy Salgado. We are here to speak on behalf of our dedicated dual language teachers to call for immediate action. In order to continue to work effectively, we have 4 requests. 1, we request a meeting with Dr. Aramaki to address our concerns directly and collaboratively. 2, although we have received an update this morning, we are still awaiting written communication from the district with accurate teacher-specific information. Moving forward, we hope that such matters are addressed with the utmost accuracy, discretion, and professionalism. 3, we want to work in partnership with our departmental leaders and colleagues in order to strengthen our programs. 4, we welcome continued engagement with the school board. We know this school board has a history of supporting dual language programs. 5 years ago, when we sought your help, you ensured the dual language programs in Title I schools would continue. You have seen our qualifications, our outstanding evaluations, and most importantly, the profound relationships we build with students and families. Now we invite you to witness this excellence in action. Visit our classrooms, meet our students, hear their stories, see how dual language education transforms lives. These are not just merely requests, they are essential for supporting our educators. We look forward to working with you to ensure our dual language programs and the educators who make them possible receive the respect and support they have earned. Thank you for your continued support.
Hola, mi nombre es Betsabeth, maestra jurista. Thank you for listening to us this evening. We dual language teachers don't just teach content, we teach from our hearts. In Spanish, we say, ¿quiénes somos? Who we are. Tonight, we share voices from our dual language teachers. A BSD graduate who didn't feel a sense of belonging in high school, but returned to change that just for our Latino students. A first-generation college graduate who never had teachers who looked like her or a program that valued her bilingualism. A teacher whose name was changed in elementary school because the teacher believed her name was misspelled. Now she strengthens students' identity. A teacher and daughter of immigrant farm workers, supported by her own Title I school teachers, now she strives to be that support for her own students. Teachers who once feared deportation as children now create a safe space for BSD families facing separation, harassment, and racism. Teachers whose first language is English, but they immerse themselves in a second language to serve as allies to their BIPOC colleagues, students, and families. Teachers who often feel silenced but continue to speak up and advocate for students and family, even when their voices shake, just like mine right now. Teachers from all over the world who made their way to this community and found not only belonging, but a family in their dual language schools. Teachers who have made Bellevue more empathetic, accepting, and bilingual. This is who we are. We deserve to be seen, valued, and supported for all we bring to our community. We are highly educated, we have experience, we are dedicated professionals who bring enormous values to our district. Thus, we want the district to want us here, to do what it takes to make sure we stay and that we choose to stay in Bellevue. Gracias.
All right, well, thank you for the public comment.
I normally don't respond. We normally don't respond, but I'll just, since you're all here, number one, it's nice to see you all together. I mean, there's all of our dual schools together. I'm sorry for that it's for a situation like this, but it is amazing to see you all together. And I hope you know how much I appreciate you and the work that you do. I will say, I first heard about this issue of the certification challenges from the Sherwood Forest RE&I team, the Racial Equity and Inclusion team. And so they first brought this to my attention. And so we've been working as quickly as possible since then to try to fix it. But I just want you to know that we are committed to, we apologize. I apologize on behalf of the district for just the strife over the past 3 to 6 weeks that you've been having to deal with this. And for, in certain cases, just feeling mistreated or undervalued. And so I just want you to know that I will respond to some of your other kind of the things that you've asked later, but I just wanted you to hear that from me, that I do apologize on behalf of the district for the things that you've had to go through. I think we have a good fix and a solution to it. I'm sorry that it's taken so long to do that, but I feel confident about that moving forward, and we'll get you information and clarity as soon as possible. Thank you for coming tonight.
Okay, now we go on to the annual plan board report on the topic of accessibility and inclusion.
Let everyone get seated. Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Aramaki. I am Scott Powers, Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, and I've had an opportunity to work with this amazing team this year. This team is beginning year one of what will probably be a 5-year journey connected to our strategic plan around accessibility and inclusion. And we wanted to give you an opportunity to really hear from some of our students, one of our family members, and our staff about the work that's been happening. You had an opportunity to look at the report earlier this week. Hope we'll answer some of your questions that came up there. And then obviously there'll probably be some more as we go through. So I'm going to hand it off to Aaron. I'll work that. You go
Great,
ahead.
thank you so much. Clicker doesn't work apparently. Hi, I'm Erin Hagan, and I am in a new position this year as Director of Special Education, and I have a focus on elementary, and it has been my pleasure to co-facilitate this team. And as you can see by how large this table is, there are many voices that have spoken into our project this year. We wish we could have brought all of them with us, but this is just a fraction of our awesome team. So we started work on inclusion and accessibility really directed by the district's strategic plan. And our particular area is the focus of inclusion and accessibility. And we even got a little further clarification from all of you to really focus this year, year one of a 5-year plan, on creating more inclusive and accessible 504 meetings and IEP meetings. And I do want to differentiate and say that inside of IEP meetings, I think it's important to note that we're also talking about referral meetings and evaluation meetings as well, which happen before a student gets an IEP. And I think that those are really important meetings that we also included in this process of talking about how we can make them more inclusive and accessible. So when we first heard that we were going to narrow our focus to meetings, we actually were excited because we felt like that was something that is really foundational to the experience of families and students and staff. It really, for many of them, especially when you're talking about an initial evaluation, is the foundation and entry point potentially into special education or a 504 plan. And we felt like if we could do some good work on making those more accessible and inclusive, then we could start our families and our students off on a stronger, more collaborative footing for the rest of their career with IEPs. So I was excited when that was the focus, because I feel like everything stems off of that. So if we can do that well, then I think that we have a great start. This is, as Scott said, just year one. So it's a 5-year plan, and we have more plans for future work in inclusion and accessibility. But we're excited to be here today to tell you about what progress we've made just over the last about 5 months together as a team, and what we're hoping to do in the very near future.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Patterson, and I am a student at Sammamish High School. The reason why we are doing this is because the Bellevue School District currently serves around 3,610 students who experience disabilities, and obviously we want to help them, right? So we went off of what the Strategic Plan Guiding Coalition helped us identify. They helped us identify some needs in our community, and they found that we needed more consistent practices throughout all 504 and IEP meetings, that we needed to focus on a more human-centered approach, and that we needed to enforce consistent structures, communication, and provide a welcoming environment in which everyone is involved, heard, and respected throughout the entire process. How we are doing this is, so far we have had 5 meetings, and during these meetings we have focused on building community within our team. So we were learning about each other and the reasons behind why we're here and what we're doing. After that, we began the process of learning about and conducting empathy interviews, which I actually conducted my first 4 2 months ago. And we conducted over 60 total interviews, which is like 3 to 5 per person, in our various stakeholder groups, which is, I am a student, so I conducted other students' interviews, and we have community members, parents, and other staff members as well. We also took notes during those meetings and then shared what we found and learned using quotes and just generalizations from the interviews, and identified some themes which gave us the insight that we needed to draft our problem statement. And with that being said, I will hand it over to Stephanie to talk more about the empathy interviews.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So my name is Stephanie Parkins. I have a 4th grader at Phantom Lake Elementary School who has an IEP, and I have a 7th grader at Tillicum who does not. So we did the empathy interviews throughout December and January. They were guided by a set of questions to gain information while also empathizing with the interviewee, building a rapport and relationship. Because they were peer-to-peer, it supported that empathy because they were in like similar situations. In my experience, the interviews were an excellent way to glean information. Conversations flowed into more and more insight, and more than a person might share on an electronic survey or other form, and that rapport and relationships were built. In having conversation, we gained insight on the positives and the challenges of the current IEP and 504 meetings, but also gained insight on other issues. The insight on the other issues, though, go into kind of like a thought parking lot of sorts, so they might be good for future initiatives. And then there was also networking and knowledge sharing that happened in the interviews as well, sometimes addressing concerns and issues right then and there. For me personally, it was great to meet parents that I would have likely not have met and heard their story, but also had my story heard. Having a child who, like mine, with some learning differences can be lonely and challenging. One of the quotes on the screen just notes, that they, felt alone in the process. But knowing that I'm not alone in the process and that there are other parents like that through these interviews was uplifting for both me and those being interviewed. On the screen, we do have examples of quotes that came from the interviews. Some from saying meetings need time, solid facilitation, all voices are not necessarily heard but need to be. Meetings to be more positive, focus on strengths. My favorite one up there is, kids are loved and safe. Connections when all parties are equal happen. Building relationships, case managers standing up for the needs of the student, but however, systems can be inconsistent and information not shared. So with all this information, you could see a picture of Post-its. We came to our January meeting with all the information from our interviews and tried to make sense of what all this qualitative data was saying. Just as I highlighted different words to pop out on that screen. The Post-it notes were all on tables, and information and trends and insight started popping out. And we took all those Post-its with key quotes written down and created some trends that we saw, some attributes, concerns. And we worked with that information, culling it, examining it, and discussing it to develop our problem statement, which is on the screen right now. Everyone involved in a 504 IEP meeting process wants an experience that is inclusive, student-centered, and collaborative, ensuring their voices are heard and the student needs are met. But inconsistent systems and practices can lead to misunderstanding, unmet student needs, and mistrust. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to talk about our progress from this problem statement.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ayer. I'm a school psychologist with Bellevue. I oversee referrals at BDD and private schools this year. After this problem statement was developed, we did a team analysis of, just delving deeper into the root causes. And then just kind of identifying fundamental barriers for our families, students, and staff to be able to access these meetings, to be able to meaningfully engage and participate. We came up with multiple root causes, and then we clustered them under 5 broad root cause areas. And we were able to narrow it down to 3 as being within the scope of this team. So we tabled the other 2. And the 3 root causes that you see on the slide up here were related to really the transactional relationship, the nature of these meetings, that students and parents kind of shared with us. Kind of making it more transactional, and it's not, student-centric, or kind of keeping it more positive. Lack of role clarity, training, and consistency popped up there too, with there being inconsistency within the district between schools and even within schools that participate. And the third one was just kind of deficit-based mindset, like focused more on what the student can't do and the disabilities versus making it more human-centered and strength-based. So after that, our next step between now and the end is to kind of brainstorm more solutions and just organizing and prioritizing them into actionable steps. We just kind of agreed on the top 3 last week, and we started doing our work on what that might look like. And there were some themes that already began to emerge, and just around staff training and including students at meeting, which is some, but it's still work in progress.
Hi, I'm Kristen Learheimer, Director of Special Education. I support middle and high schools and some of our other schools across the district. And as Scott and Aaron mentioned, this is part of a 5-year plan. This is just the beginning of the work for this team. And we want to build on the work that's already being done in inclusion and accessibility across the district. There are already experts that we can lean into here in Bellevue, and we plan on this work to grow and build as we build capacity. We're starting off with redesigning the IEP and 504 meetings, and that's going to reach out and touch every part of instruction for students across the district. And I want to acknowledge that we know we have 3,000 ish students that experience disabilities that are identified, but there are other kids and students and parents and staff members that have undiagnosed or undisclosed disabilities. And the more work that we do in inclusion and accessibility, the more that we can expand the work that we're doing and just really have better outcomes for everyone, all the lives that we touch here. But again, with our next steps, we're going to, again, continue. Wait, I forgot to do the slide. With our future work, sorry, we're going to really focus in on looking at any issues that are coming up that affect our students, including disproportionality, and building up the capacity of all the folks that work in our district to improve everything that we do. And we're also going to be leveraging the position of our special education liaison, and I'm going to hand it over to Gitta right now.
All right, thank you, Kristen. My name is Gitta McIntyre, so I am the family liaison for special education. And I was asked just to explain a little bit about my position and how it works with our design team. So in my position, I serve as a bridge really between our families in the district and the special education department. I really am here to be a family support and make sure that our families feel that they're informed about their student services, that they feel they're engaged about it. I'm also here to help build community amongst our special education families. So there's a couple ways that I've been doing that in this position. So one has been partnering with our PTSA Council to offer coffee chats that we do every month here in the district office, and it brings together families from all over the district who have students who are on IEPs or 504s. And it's giving them a chance. It's pretty informal. It's a time where they can connect, support each other, kind of get out of that loneliness that Stephanie talked about, less isolation. We also run family resource sessions. So those are in response to feedback that we hear from parents about different topics that they would like more information on. They're typically run by staff members, but sometimes community members. So another way to offer support to families. And then I will also be serving as a special ed representative in our Welcome Center. So it'll be another place for families to get support. For this team, I've been able to serve as the project manager for the team. And then I'm looking forward to, in the future, in the next few years, continuing the work of our design team.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Irina Kurilenko, and I'm the assistant principal at International. It has been a huge privilege for me as a superintendent intern to be part of this dream team. And thank you to the students, to the parents, to the community members, staff members, to our director, Jane Aros, for being part of this team and engaging so deeply for the commitment and engagement. The strength of our team, I believe, is in shared experiences, in shared personal stories, and also dedication to education for all. All means all. So we are truly grateful for your partnership. And that is concluding our report, and we would like to turn to comments and questions.
Okay, so now it is time for comments and questions. So would any board member like to go first on those? Not seeing hands raised here. Oh dear. All right, I will go first. So let me understand. So this year you're focusing on improving the meetings, okay? And basically your report has described the meetings you've been having to improve meetings. And then I like the part in this where you identify the barriers. I like that a lot. And so we have the barriers being transactional relationships, lack of training, and ableism biases. And then also identified in this report are things like time limitations for staff, understaffing, turnover, burnout, inefficiencies, uneven workloads, and things like that. And I will say from meeting with special needs parents over the years, when it comes to the meeting, one thing I hear a lot is problems scheduling the meetings. So I hope you'll be working on that. And then when you're in the meeting, sometimes the staff members that were supposed to be in the meeting aren't in the meeting. So that's another really big problem that I hope you address. And so then my big question is, how do we make sure these things happen? My overarching question is, how do we make sure that things that get decided on in the meetings actually happen? Maybe that's a little bit of a further step, but that's one thing I hear all the time, that things get written in the IEP plan and then they just don't happen. And that's huge. And then another big thing I have, we're talking about human-centered process. And what we haven't called out in here is, where is the actual student in this? The actual student whose IEP it is. Where does their voice come into how this is going and what should be in the IEP and things like that? Do they get to go to the meeting? Is that, like, I know there's legal restrictions, but are they fully involved in this? And how can they be? All right, and I'll let the next board member. Okay, Director Block.
I want to start by thanking you guys. I know that this is a big need, and that this is good to see us identifying and working towards solutions related to our strategic plan. And this is one of the earlier reports on progress on that. And I appreciate all of your time that you guys have spent on that. Ms. I'm gonna get your name wrong, but the liaison, I encountered you first with the special needs group. And, you know, the thing that strike me is, if you have somebody who has needs, you don't know what to do. And having a wayfinder to help you understand the structure of the system and all the regulations and rules and resources that are available is a critical thing. And I really appreciate your role and the importance that that brings and the value that I see other families bring to that. I have a couple of comments or questions. So one of you brought up the comments about identification of students. And I do wonder how we identify students, and how many of those are things that staff or teachers recognize that need, or going through a systematic evaluation, versus families saying, hey, we have an issue, can you help us? And I know that there's been a transition for like advanced learning, where now we do universal evaluations, and whether or not we're doing similar universal evaluations for these needs as well, versus relying on them to kind of self-identify in some way. Another one is language. So around 504s and IEPs, I know that there's the generation I was brought up in, there was a huge push to be politically correct and to try to avoid some of the biases historic language has put on some of these students. But I've also heard some students that I'm very familiar with say, it's a disability. I'm not differently abled. I can't do the same things my other classmates can do. And that is how they feel. And I just want to make sure that we're recognizing that some of these students have, through no fault of their own, a disability that puts them at a disadvantage and that they're trying to compensate for in our classrooms. I recognize that the focus here is on the first step, or one of the first steps, the intake, the annual meeting, the annual review of the IEPs, and this. I'm kind of curious where this group is thinking the next step is going to be, so that we're not wrapped around the axle on the bureaucracy of meetings. And I hope it's going to be on the implementation of the what's agreed to there. I know that from the limited experience I have, that some people say, hey, we've got it there in our IEP, but it's just, or a 504 plan, but it's just not quite happening in the classroom or in all the classrooms. I have one closing statement that I'll leave on, which is that many students with IEPs and 504 plans are constantly trying to compensate for their disability. And I just want to make sure that we're recognizing that as we go through this process. A lot of them work very hard to avoid that disability and make it as hidden as possible. And that can create a challenge in supporting them so that they can use that energy to focus on everything else. Thanks.
Okay, next board director. Who's next? Okay.
So thank you for the super thorough report. It's greatly appreciated. And it's nice to have such a wide range of people speaking to this very important issue. And I can't remember your name, student from Sammamish High School. Gabriel, thank you for coming in and presenting the student perspective. It's so valued. and valuable. I just wanted to give a shout out for, again, tying in We Belong and specifically the human-centered systems and relationships. It was a huge area of concern of the board that we have been hearing for many years, that there's been some conflict, some feelings of relationships just not feeling connected. And because of that, the degree of actually helping the kids and helping the families meet those needs was compromised. So thank you for taking that so seriously. I appreciate that you all heard that and took it to heart. And the empathy interviews, 60 of them, fabulous. That took a lot of your own time. So again, appreciated for that. I want to echo the actionable next steps. I think that idea of how will we continue to hold ourselves capable in continuing this work, holding our schools accountable, what can that look like to continue to provide that clarity of roles, who's on first with what part of which meeting, so it doesn't feel so sticky and procedural. So thank you for continuing to shine a light on that. My first question was, what about the possibility of a welcome center interfacing? And then ta-da, there it was on the slide that it's closely connected. So that's a definite swing and a hit. Thank you for that. And I think, oh, just to mention on district-wide PD, I know we're really focusing on MTSS, and this connection, this interface with MTSS is clearly a Cinderella fit. Be really curious to see how that rolls out and how it continues to be embedded in the day-to-day for our staff, because I definitely read that in the report, that concern about time limitations and turnover and retention. And now more than ever, that's really real. So a sticky problem to solve. And I'm glad you all have your hearts and minds all over this. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you all for coming. I know how much time it takes for you to get away, attend all these meetings, have these conversations. I did volunteer work for a very long time, many, many years. So thank you so much for your service, and thank you for making time to share your voice with us as well, Susan. Can I just say that among the many impressive things that I find really valuable about the work that you're doing, I really want to say that I think that the way that you've embraced looking at our processes and, around how kids can access, around access for students in 504s and IEPs is really, really important and very impressive. I don't think that we can argue that there are many opportunities for us to make our students feel more welcome, make sure that the information is accessible for them. And so I just really appreciate your focus on streamlining the processes for our students, so that makes sure that we have full participation from all students. I know that you're just getting started with this work, but when I think about accessibility, I also think about the physical spaces inside and outside of our building spaces. And so I'm just wondering to what extent this group is planning on collaborating with like Jack and his team around some of the projects that are currently going on, and then some of the newer projects that are upcoming, to ensure that there aren't any barriers that students may have identified. And you have students on this group, so maybe that perspective could be leveraged. And yeah, I think that's all that I had. Thank you so much.
I think I'm the last one.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for the wonderful presentation. I had the privilege of being part of this committee and hearing everyone's thoughts. I have to say, yeah, it's, Bellevue is known for our education, for all of our programs, including our special ed program. And I am thrilled that we decided to put this as part of our focus and strategic plan to improve it. It's good, but we can make it better. And we've looked at it, and we heard from our community, from our staff, our students, our families. And honestly, a lot of the questions the board had and comments, it's been heard during the meetings. And special education is very complex. it's hard to put in few words because it covers so much. And I so much appreciate everyone stepping up, willing to dedicate and share to make it better. One of the things I'm very thankful for is the root, naming the root causes, coming up with a problem, you know, just trying to address the how to improve meetings. Oh my goodness. I think we could have had many, many meetings just to address that, how to improve meetings. I don't think we were done. And there are so much wisdom and ideas that was shared. I'm excited to see how we could streamline it and make it better. I do want to make sure that we emphasize and we make sure that we do make sure we continue with the idea of keeping students at the center, and especially when they come of age and when they can participate and they can vocalize and they share with us what their need is, what they want, where they're weak at, where they want to improve at, and that we include their voice through all of this, because as we know, when we empower our students, they do better. And I appreciate the entire team saying that this is important. I don't really have a whole lot more to say because I've heard everyone's in the meetings, and so I appreciate your comments and your presentation. Thanks.
Okay, so now it's traditionally time for some reaction or answering from you all.
Yeah, I think there were a number of questions. I think probably one of the biggest questions, and if my team wants to jump in, was just kind of really where we're going to go down the road, and again, stressing this idea that tackling this fundamental place, this meeting that's consistent. We know, and I think Aaron mentioned this, that it really does have tentacles into other places, right? So even what we are learning about the meeting, we can see what our interactions with families, how we communicate with them, what happens in the welcome center, all of those things we can learn from. And then yes, where our professional development and our work will center is really around that meeting, but we know it reaches out. Long term, yes, the implementation, once those plans are developed, how we actually do it. And then I've kind of been thinking over the last few days about this team, and it's like, we also need to make this a gen ed team. And we started as very focused around special ed and IEPs, but the reality is the implementation of that really does fall across our whole teaching and learning department. And so it's sort of my aha when you do these reports, it makes you think and you're reflecting and you're like, these are the other people I need to have at the table too, right? And it's been great to have Irina as a principal in a building, but I need general education teachers also as part of this general education in understanding how we're being able to provide for the students and the families as we work with them. So.
Sorry, I'm having microphone problems today for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe the only thing that I'll add to that is when we first did the strategic planning work, we heard a lot of voices from our special education families. And so that's kind of where a lot of this kind of started. I mean, Gitz and I mean, we did a lot of like talking about it, but that's where a lot of this began. And yet, I think when your group started, I think there was a need for the people who are directly working on it to hear directly from people as well. And sure enough, I think in all the interviews that you've done, and I've read all of the notes, I mean, it's just people needed to say the things that they needed to say about what was happening in IEP meetings, in classrooms, in their experience with the school district. I mean, so I just want to honor that as like, it's a part that takes the longest, but the listening of families is the beginning of healing and moving forward. So thank you for doing that. I also want to say, I think my initial hope of the group was that we would tackle inclusion and accessibility bigger. But I think the team was like, we've got to tackle something that's actually manageable. I mean, we've got so much that's going on. And so I think the idea was like, could we start with something that is manageable and will have a huge impact? And the idea of the meeting is that it is one of the first places where teacher, parent, like really come together to talk about really challenging things. And so the IEP meeting, the evaluation meeting, all of these things are kind of the first time that you can either make or break the relationship. This is where a lot of the pain starts for families. And so I thought that was really great. And I think the next step is, I think once there are some like recommendations and this is what we want to do, the next step is to make sure that we train the whole system. Parents, this is what you can expect and what your role is in making this a human-centered experience. Teachers, this is what you can expect and this is what your role is. Administrators, the same. And so we want the whole system to learn this. And I do think that we want to get that part right. And so that to me is what I hope will be the next step. And then I think the next work then is to think about inclusion accessibility beyond that. But this might take a couple of years to get right because it's going to require clear expectations and the training of the whole system. And then I'll also just kind of mention to the community who's listening and to the board as well, we also have other inclusion work that's happening. And so we've got a bunch of teachers and administrators and district folks who are working on kind of inclusion, the model, and all of that, because a lot of that is also at play in making sure that kids and families have the best experience and our educators as well. So this is a good first step. We're going to learn a lot more about special education in our study session afterwards, but thank you to all of you who are here. I mean, all of the hours that go into kind of designing this work. We just appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Okay. Would any board members have any further comments? I know we're almost at time, but I actually have another comment, so I wanted to see if anyone else does. Okay. This has taken me back, and it's actually upsetting me a little bit. So this is bringing me back to when my son was going through an IEP, and we started calling it meetings to have meetings. And I have two concrete suggestions for you. One would be at the very, very beginning, please lay out the process so it doesn't feel like meetings to have meetings. I'm just now, for this first moment, knowing or realizing that what it was a referral meeting, evaluation, and an IEP meeting. I did not know that that was the expectation. So from my perspective, it was the meeting to agree to testing, the meeting to review the testing, the meeting to set up the IEP meeting, the IEP meeting where the teacher doesn't come. That's what it was from my view. And so one concrete thing you could do would be to lay out the process so that the parents know what's going on. And then the other thing, I don't know if it's still valid because this was a while back, but what I heard through the parent chatter network was don't go to these meetings without mom and dad, because you will not get the respect from the team if you show up just as the mom. If the dad's there, it looks more serious. And it seemed to be true. I can't to this day deny that. So I'm telling my husband, come out from work. And then after like the third meeting, he's like, I can't just keep coming out for these meetings to have meetings. So my second suggestion is be respectful of parents' work schedule. And it's really hard, but I'm not sure that that is something that we always take into consideration because we have the teachers' work schedules and things, but also reflect on this thing, whether there is something to you getting more impact if both parents are there. Okay, that's it for me. Anything else? All right. Sorry about that, but it just came on me as, I felt the tension building. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the award of contract approval. Yep. Thank you, Director Rogan, for remembering to thank the team. So let's go on to award of the contract for the A&E Architect and Engineering contract for international school. I learned a term.
I'm Jack McLeod, Executive Director of Facilities Operations, and here requesting that the board approve the award of contract for architectural and engineering services for international school replacement project awarded to Integris Architecture in the amount of $8,206,383. Little background information. On March 12th, 3 shortlisted firms were interviewed to provide design services for the international replacement project. Integris Architecture was selected that same day. We had 8 architectural firms respond to the request for qualifications, which were advertised in February 2025. The selection committee consisted of members from the international staff as well as the facilities department. The International School Replacement Project will be funded from the sale of project-specific bonds approved by the voters in 2020. We have set an initial maximum allowable construction cost of $78 million, and the amount of this architectural and engineering contract is based on the MAC using calculations provided by the Washington State Fee Schedule for Public Schools.
So let's see, where should we start? Yeah, we should have a motion here to approve this contract. Do we have?
I move to approve the award of architect contract approval for international school.
Perfect.
Second.
Yeah, thank you. And then let's assume that we might like to have some discussion of the motion. So would anybody like to say anything? Yeah.
I have just a couple of questions. So just trying to understand, you mentioned you had several different firms that responded. Were they on some sort of a roster, or how were, because we didn't see bids from the different firms. We just saw that you talked to multiple firms and we saw the cost sheet for the one that.
Right. We saw basically their qualifications to be able to deliver on a project of this magnitude. And so the advertisement went out 2 consecutive weeks in Seattle Times and Daily Journal of Commerce. And then they had a certain amount of time to go ahead and submit on that.
So the selection was based on the qualifications in the interview?
Based on the qualifications and recommendations, references of from other districts, other places that had utilized these firms, as well as we had utilized a number of their services as well.
Anybody else with anything? I just want to, for myself, just reemphasize the thing I said on Monday, which is I like the fact that you have a team now that's going to be working with the architects and engineers. And I just want to make sure we get plenty of end user input on the buildings so that it's totally built to the needs of the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. All right. So if there's nothing else, I think I will ask for the vote. So all those in favor of approving the contract, please say aye.
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 I hear there's no opposition, so the motion carries. That was good. That caught us up a little bit, and it's time for director discussion. Yeah. So who would like to start off some director discussion? Okay.
Yeah, so you may notice that I'm extremely casual. I just had such a great time with the kids and the staff at Bellevue College today. I mean, they're just so incredible. And then I got a chance to attend some of the breakout sessions. There was one on financial literacy. I think you all will appreciate this. But, you know, she just used, the instructor, she just used really practical scenarios that I wish I understood going into college, graduating from high school, like around credit card use and, you know, debt and things like that. And the kids were really engaged. Janine was there, our director, chief of communications, and it was just really great to see the kids engaging and really understanding how their, you know, credit card use and such can do them a disservice. I'll just say that. And then I also attended a couple of the panel discussions led by some of our staff, and they were just incredible. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. The kids were so into it and engaged, and they asked questions, and it was just really thoughtfully done. So I'm just really grateful to our staff who took time to lead those breakout sessions. And then I popped into one where our partners, the Bellevue Police Department, were there talking to a lot of kids who attended their sessions. And so it was a fun day. So, and it was nice to dress down. And I'll say also, you know, we attended the Chinook school visit, and the kids were really, really engaged, and happy to, just share their affinity for their school. And I just love that. And just a shout out to those leaders over there. I mean, they are doing an incredible job supporting the students. And to me, that was very apparent. So thank you. And last but not least, it's not too late to register for the Rainier Athletes yearly fundraising event that will take place on April the 26th from 5:30 to 9:30 at the Hidden Valley Fieldhouse. They are amazing partners with our district and do a lot for our students. And so if you're able to make that event, it's going to be a lot of fun. And last but not least, to Director Rogan, I am just so sad to see you go and happy to have a new director, but you've just been a delight to collaborate with, to work alongside, and you are much appreciated. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, who's next on director discussion?
Sure, I can go.
Okay, so I'll clamor at once.
Yeah, I'll start with the Chinook school visit. It was great to go out there and see the families and students and teachers at Chinook. It was, I'm embarrassed to say, my first time past the Commons in that building. I've been in the Commons about a dozen times, and it was good to see the classrooms and engage with some of them, as well as some friends who are on the staff there. One of the things that was clear is there is definitely some anxiety from teachers and staff as far as what next year is going to look like as they go through the strain. And I hope that we can work to support them. One of the things that we're continuing to do is to work with the legislature to help make sure we have funding, but it's also auction season and fundraising season for a lot of schools and PTSAs, and that's one way to help support schools as well. Bellevue Schools Foundation's events coming up soon too, but I know that that's weighing heavily on a lot of staff and seeing that. It's also been the season of musical events. It's been good to see the various concerts and performances that have been going on throughout the district. Lots of great information, great performances coming out. It's also, as my wife likes to point out, incredibly fun to watch students as they grow up. At international school, but we get the pleasure of watching 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders play their musical instruments, and they get better. It's quite amazing. So being able to see that transition through all those years and the professionalism that many of those students carry themselves with is amazing. Legislative season is very fast and heavy right now. If you've been watching the papers, you'll know that they're working on both their budget and revenue plans at the moment. And things could change in a heartbeat. The information Dr. Aramaki shared earlier could be very different in 2 days. I know one of the revenue plans that the House and Senate were building their plans around, the governor is not in favor of. And that's going to create some reworking, and we'll see where budgets end up. So there's a lot of quick responding going on right now, and it's out of our control. This is one of those things where there will likely be some wheeling and dealing that goes into whatever the final solution is for this legislative session, and whether they end on time is questionable. I do want to say thank you, Director Rogan, for your year of perspective and guidance and feedback, as well as the occasional hosting of my dog. But it's been great to learn from you and to see your experiences. We look forward to having Marta join us soon on the board, and I'm sure that will be a wonderful experience having you on here, but also getting to know you. And we had a lot of great applicants for the board position. We really appreciate seeing the perspectives, the ideas, and the experiences that people are willing to bring. I hope that many of those people will find other opportunities to engage with the district. The school board is one of many ways that families can participate and support the school district. And I look forward to seeing some of those same faces show up in other venues. Thank you.
Okay, I see Director Aris has her hand up.
Yeah, I'll chime in here. I'll start with saying thank you, Director Rogan, for all your service this past year. It was great to have your input and insight and your friendly face on the board and working collaboratively with you. I appreciate all the energy you brought in with your expertise and your just generous heart. I want to also chime into the legislative work. I'm not going to go into details because I think Director Block covered it pretty darn well of current situation. But I do want to highlight one thing is that I appreciate everyone's effort on the board, in our community, engaging this year and really doing the work that we need to do to make sure that education is on the minds of our legislators and that they are really focusing on that. I want to highlight all the effort Kelly, Director, Superintendent Armaki, you can just fit all the seats, have been doing. I cannot say enough of all the extra mile that you've been going and doing on this, because it's you not just leading our district, but help lead across the state with other superintendents and fielding all the questions and doing the research and bringing them all together. So I appreciate that. I did talking about legislative, there was a note in the email from John last Friday regarding positions. If you do have any thoughts in any of the standing positions or ledge positions that you want to add to, please let me know. There is a deadline that we have to meet if we want to do any work around the positions. As far as, let's see, as you know, I'm in the east side of the mountains. We got 4 out of 6 high school teams here at the Northwest Championship, and they're amazing. I have to say, it was fun to watch Ramen Robotics run their robot and win their heat, and then watch our robotics, Robototes win their heat against NRG. So I had to cheer and say, sorry, because they're against each other. But the spirit of our students here is just so phenomenal. It fills me. And so I appreciate you making the adjustment to let me zoom in and be straddling the two things simultaneously. I want to highlight a couple of things. I want to thank Eastside Pathway for hosting all partners meeting. It was great to meet all of our other partners that somehow works with us with our district. That meeting was last week. The same day we went to Chinook, which, going to schools and visiting and hearing our students and our parents and our staff, I have to say that's a blessing that they're so open and honest and sharing their thoughts with us so that we could do our jobs better. And I hope they continue to do that. I hope they continue to share with us and be so we could do our job better. Thanks to Puesta del Sol and inviting us, and I had a chance to go to their auction, and that was a fun one. Different environment, It was at a oh, now I'm blanking on the restaurant, but they were generous to host it for Puesta, and it was, they do a phenomenal job. And then, YouthLink. And also I attended a YouthLink meeting and I got to the BSD PTSA talk last night a little late because our students are so amazing. I have to tell you, one of them was saying, I'm old enough. I could have submitted my application for the board position. And I was like, yes, you could have. And they realized, oh, I could have submitted my application for the appointment for the city council. I was like, yes, you could have. And they're thinking about it. They're diving into the nuances of running the city, running the board. I love the energy of our students. I like the fact that we're empowering our students that way. And I think we're definitely doing some good for our students. So those are the good updates.
Great, thank you. I think maybe I'll go next to give Director Rogan the last word. Yeah. So I just am going to say a few little things. One, what Director Block said reminded me that I was watching Les Mis and I saw small peasants. And it turns out, or whatever they were, small members of the community on the stage, and they were the sixth graders. And then afterwards, we got to talk to the student who did the lead, the big role, and he said he had started as one of those sort of small peasants or whatever. So I thought that was great. And then I want to say with sadness goodbye to Director Rogan, and say that I really appreciate everything. Oh, look at that. Oh, cool. Oh, wow. And then I want to also express welcome to our new director, Marta. So that's and then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the book club that Dr. Aramaki did last night about, it was more on the Jonathan Haidt work on cell phones and anxiety and stuff, but we talked a lot with anxiety, and our MHAT staff that presented were quite impressive. And I took copious notes because, some of this is, thankfully, some best parenting practices were in there that I had known from before, because otherwise it'd be too late now. But a lot of it is applicable to adults too, who are experiencing anxiety. So I thought it was super helpful in that way. So thank you for doing that. And then the other thing I wanted to comment on is that when we were at Chinook, we heard a lot about MHAT and about how difficult it was going to be maybe to keep providing, to keep being able to serve the kids, especially some kids who really have high needs and have been through some trauma or maybe are still in some difficult living situations and so forth. And so I am glad that we were able to restore a few MHAT counselors to the district. It's unfortunate that it's such a big need coming out of the pandemic and that it was basically federally funded with the ESSER funds, and we just don't have those funds anymore. So I'll end there and pass the torch to Director Rogan.
Thank you. Wow, last word. I'll try to stay with my time frame too. Thank you first and foremost to the board for just all those warm wishes. It's again been a true honor and a privilege to be a part of this amazing group of people who have such a vision for our community all the time, all the time. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to be a part of you. I had 3 fabulous events these past few weeks. And first of all, I feel bad I missed the Chinook visit, but daughter duty called, and I know you all understand that. Yeah. But anyway, I heard it was great. So sorry I missed it. First of all, I want to give a note of celebration and appreciation to Robert, the PTSA president at Cherry Crest. He invited me out to assist with a budget conversation. My first thought was gulp, general membership meeting and the spending reduction plan conversation. And it was a little bit of budget 101. And it was really, I think, well received. People are curious. They want to know, a board person's perspective, a director perspective. And then Aaron Stedman shared the potential impact at a school level. And then Robert shared the call to action, which I thought was so powerful. It, went from macro to micro, and here's what you can do to help, and here's where we need the help. So it was really powerful. I want to give a shout out to all of the hardworking volunteers at Cherry Crest that are making that school amazing. Enitai, they had their Toast Enitai auction. Very dangerous for this director. I'm a sucker for a silent auction, and that's not an invitation to keep inviting me. I need a break. I think my husband says, please take a break from the auctions for a little bit. Anyway, a big shout out to Gianna, the PTA president, Gianna Gala. She's a force, and her toast auction chair, Tammy, just amazingly organized. They made a beautiful presentation at the Mercer Island Community Center. I didn't even know that was available to rent, but it was gorgeous. And also I was with Director Aris at I think it's Castillo, the restaurant on Bellevue Way at Bell Square. Amazing for the Puesta auction. I showed a little more restraint on that one. But a big thank you to Sarah Moon, PTA president, co-president, who also is just an amazing leader who helped coordinate a vibrant experience for everybody who attended. And a big thank you. I wish I had written down her name, but the owner, if I remember correctly, and Jane, you can correct me, I think she donated the food to this cause for Puesta's auction. I know that's a huge thing. So a shout out to that restaurant and owner. Thank you for that. And lastly, I'm so excited, Marta, to pass the torch to you. I'll look forward to ongoing conversations and connections with just not only the two of us, but with the Welcome Center Advisory Committee as well. I'm going to continue to participate just as a community member for as long as I can and bask in your glow as the new director of District 3. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, wow. We seem to have ended 5 minutes early. I think so, yeah. But anyway, we're going to go on break. You can advise, should I end the break 5 minutes early, or people expecting the session to start, the staff that's staffing that? Start 5 minutes early? Okay. All right. Okay. So the board will be in the other room at 6:25 to start the study session on special education. And that's all for now.